King Kong is one of the most iconic and long-lasting characters in media. He even predates Godzilla by about 20 years. Since his debut in 1933, he's had about 13 films, give or take. Take away the animated ones, it's about 10. But among them, one movie stands out. The only Japanese King Kong film ever produced.
The mightiest monster of all time in his greatest adventure, King Kong escapes.
Probably the most bizarre entry in King Kong's entire catalog, King Kong Escapes was produced by Toho in 1967. It is a almost unheard of collaboration between Toho and Universal due to the tight grip of character rights on both studios. It may be weird to think about now, but King Kong was actually the way more popular and culturally relevant character at the time compared to Godzilla. That's why his name comes first in King Kong vs. Godzilla. At that time, Godzilla was barely 10 years old. King Kong was cracking 30. So Toho leveraged the popularity of King Kong across the globe and created King Kong vs. Godzilla, licensing the rights from RKO for the first widescreen color appearance.
And look at Randy Orton slithering.
Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Now, even though that film has aged questionably,
Jesus Christ.
it was a smashing success at the time, which encouraged Toho to keep the Kong train going. With such a hit on their hands, Toho was eager to keep Kong in the spotlight. So their next idea, a showdown between King Kong and a giant lobster. But that did not pan out. Toho's original plan was to feature King Kong in a film starring Ebirah, Horror of the Deep, but that eventually found its way into the Godzilla series instead. The reason why? Well, in comes Rankin and Bass. At the time, they were the production company behind the very popular King Kong animated show, and they licensed the rights to Tokyo, so they wanted the film to more accurately represent their show. Rankin and Bass rejected the Kong vs. Ebirah script. So Toho decided to give Ebirah to Godzilla, and they remixed the script to feature characters from the animated show, and that is how we ended up with King Kong Escapes. If you're like me, you probably haven't even heard of King Kong Escapes, and that's likely because Toho wants us to forget it. This film is not easy to find. It's not on any streaming services. There's no copies of it online. Maybe a couple used DVDs on Amazon, but other than that, it's pretty much off the grid. The only reason that I have a copy is because I went to Godzilla convention in Chicago and they happen to have a Blu-ray there. So naturally, I had to check it out to see what went wrong. King Kong Escapes checks all of the typical boxes of a King Kong film. First and foremost, he is, as always, obsessed with snow bunnies.
Just like me, for real.
Sorry, Dr. Umar. Looks like we lost another one of the Snow Bunny forces.
We have a name for it,
Okay.
the Snow Bunny Crisis.
Okay.
He is drugged and taken to a big city, this time Tokyo, and he climbs a big cultural landmark, which in this scenario is the Tokyo Tower. But despite following a familiar Kong structure, this film is uniquely strange and hilarious in a way that only Toho could really pull off. If you've seen any Godzilla films from the Showa series, you know the level of goofiness I'm talking about here.
What the heck?
But what exactly made this film so dreadful that Toho never touched the character again?
Well,
Let's find out and break down the madness that is
King Kong Escapes.
God, this is so stupid.
Before we even get into the plot, let's talk about King Kong's look. Now, they reused the exact same suit from King Kong vs. Godzilla with some tweaks. I don't know what it is. He just still looks uncanny, I guess is the word. Honestly, this guy looks more like King Kong's weird uncle than King Kong himself. Plus, I don't know what it is exactly, but there is something about the way his eyes look in this film that he just looks high as balls in every scene.
In my films, she fill my mind up with ideas. I'm the highest in the room. It's like
Mom, can we go see the new King Kong movie?
no, honey, we have King Kong at home.
And yes, you may have noticed the giant robot version of Kong on the box art.
Horny nigga detective. Horny nigga detective.
Trust me, we'll get to him later. So the film opens and Kong is just minding his own business on Mondo Island, which is essentially the Temu version of Skull Island. An American submarine commandeered by Carl Nelson, who I'm assuming is supposed to be an offshoot of Carl Denham from the original, as well as Lieutenant Susan Watson, who is essentially just the obligatory blonde damsel in distress that is in every King Kong movie for some reason, and one other character's name who I can't remember, and I'm not going to stop my video to look it up. So, and hey, it's a snow bunny in a King Kong movie, so you know what that means.
I'm in danger.
So the main trio travels to the island in these weirdly high-tech submarines, and they're especially weird because nothing else in the movie is this high-tech, except for maybe Mecha-Kong, but I don't know, this just seems super out of place to me. So, as I'm sure everyone and their mama could have guessed, Susan ends up getting captured by Kong, and they recreate the iconic scene from the original where Kong has to defend her by fighting off this giant T-Rex, except it's way goofier and honestly just pure insanity. This dinosaur has clearly mastered the art of the dropkick. I will give him that. And hey, we can make fun of King Kong all we want in this movie, but he can throw hands for real. Damn! When Japanese Kong starts scrapping, he don't play around.
Like that! Like that! Like that! He needs some milk!
Whew, that boy Kong was throwing haymakers. And, you know, I feel kind of bad for the dinosaur because it's very clear that Kong was just showing up for his girl in this moment.
I just died on your arms tonight.
Breathing out of both nostrils. Rubber band. Now, wait a minute.
So anyway, this T-Rex gets packed out.
You got knocked the fuck out, man!
And the trio head back to the submarine.
Bitch is empty. Yeet!
But King Kong follows them because of his crippling dependence on white women. I just farted, so hopefully that didn't pick up on the mic.
Brother,
And of course, Kong looks fresh off the Benjamin.
I'm on that good cushion alcohol.
So Kong tries to holler, spits some game at Susan, but she's not feeling it, so she promptly swipes left on my boy, which leaves Kong to sit on this beach and hold back his tears. Hey, we've all been there. He then goes back to his cave where I'm guessing he was blasting All Girls Are the Same by Juice WRLD and taking some healthy doses of that Jennifer Lopez. Kong is abruptly woken up the next morning by a swarm of helicopters. These helicopters are led by an evil scientist named Doctor Who.
What?
Yeah, Doctor Who. Not that Doctor Who, but another Doctor Who. Which is weird because this film came out, I think, 3 years after Doctor Who came out, so they knew that Doctor Who existed, but I guess they just didn't care. So you know what? Neither do I. So Doctor Who uses his army of helicopters to drug Kong.
What the fuck?
But the joke's on him because he's into that shit.
I'm trying to get high till I can't feel nothing. I'm trying to get high till I can't feel nothing. I can fall out of the sky and I still won't feel nothing.
Now, typically in a King Kong film, they have the local tribe that's native to the island who worships Kong as some kind of god, and they usually sacrifice the main female character to Kong. But they actually don't have much of a role to play in this movie, even though they are in it. This one tribe guy does try to stop Doctor Who from abducting Kong, but let's just say that Doctor Who stays strapped. Yeah, Doctor Who got that meowskatul. And you know what the craziest part about this scene is? This guy survives this. Many men wish death upon me. Blood on my hard dog and I can't see. I'm trying to be what I'm destined to be. And trying to take my life away. So Doctor Who and his goon squad drag Kong to a secret base? Drop the base.
Drop it.
drag Kong to a secret base in the North Pole, and essentially their whole plan is they're mining for this dangerous radioactive substance called Element X, and humans can't get close to it because of its radioactivity. So, I mean, naturally, they need a big ape to do it, because that's the logical thing to do in this situation, right?
No!
And if you're wondering what Mecha-Kong's role in the film is, Doctor Who created him for the explicit purpose of mining this dangerous substance. He short-circuited, so they needed the real Kong. And if that all sounds really weird and convoluted, it's because it is. One of the things I find funniest about this film is how complicated the plot is compared to its American counterparts. Like, the average King Kong movie is usually about a couple ragtag sailors who try and save this girl that was captured by Kong, who they eventually drag to New York and climbs a tall building, metaphor for Beauty and the Beast, blah, blah, blah. Not this movie. In this movie, they need Kong so he can mine uranium.
What? What the fuck?
Like, am I crazy, or is there just a way easier way to do this that doesn't involve a giant gorilla, or a giant robot gorilla for all that matters?
Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
Regardless, they achieve this borderline slave labor by hypnotizing Kong and hooking him up with some AirPods. So they use the AirPods to direct Kong in the caves to the Element X. However, one of the henchmen slips on the controls and accidentally plays the new Kanye album. So Kong snaps out of it and crashes out because of how trash it is. Okay, maybe that's not exactly what happened, but this is my third time filming this video because of audio issues, so I'm going to get through this. And you know what? You haven't seen the film, so you can't prove me wrong. It's my video. What you gonna do about it?
Huh?
So I forgot to mention the main trio also got captured and taken to this base in the North Pole, so we get some more dialogue with them, and we also find out that the main character is horribly racist, so that's fun.
That's gotta be racist. There's no way.
Doctor Who ups the stakes by threatening to torture Susan. However, this completely backfires because, of course, King Kong is cosmically connected to white women, so he somehow knows that this is going down, and he, well, let's just say King Kong escaped. Please don't click off the video. So Kong pulls up to Tokyo and the military tries to stop him, but let's be real, when have the military ever been able to do anything in a monster movie? Quick side note, the way that King Kong runs in this movie is hilarious. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the moment you have all been waiting for, the fight between King Kong and Mecha-Kong. Whew, you know how long I've been waiting for this.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Speaking of which, let's talk about Mecha-Kong in this film. Well, technically his name is Mecha-Kong, but I'm not going to say that every time. And if you're thinking, oh, they just copied Mechagodzilla, then wrong. This film actually predates Mechagodzilla's first appearance by about 5 years. He actually inspired Mechagodzilla. Isn't that wild? It's especially crazy because Mecha-Kong has kind of been forgotten with time, whereas Mechagodzilla has risen to one of Godzilla's most iconic villains. Even though Mechagodzilla is a lot more relevant nowadays, Mecha-Kong is kind of the granddaddy of robot doppelgangers, and I think it's time we put some respect on his name.
Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
Not only that, but the musical score to this film also inspired the score for Terror of Mechagodzilla, which, for my non-Godzilla heads, is regarded as one of the most iconic pieces of music in the entire Godzilla pantheon. Hey, say what you will about this movie, but its impact on kaiju cinema is honestly remarkable. But back to the film, Mecha-Kong pulls up, and you may remember earlier I mentioned Doctor Who and his gang used hypnotism to get Kong to do what they wanted. They retrofit Mecha-Kong with this hat or whatever, and it essentially does the same thing. So while Kong is stunned, Mecha-Kong steals his girl, which is crazy, and climbs the Tokyo Tower. And hey, I'm not saying that this is a masterpiece of cinema or anything, but this is a pretty cool concept for a kaiju fight, I can't lie. Fighting while hanging on the edge of a skyscraper really adds that extra element of danger that most kaiju fights don't have because they're always on the ground, right? And King Kong can climb, so this is a very uniquely Kong fight, if that makes any sense. Godzilla can never. So yeah, a couple kicks, a couple punches later, and Mecha-Kong takes a tumble. King Kong f***s off into the ocean, and that's pretty much the movie. Woo, we did it, yeah! Despite its campiness and Let's face it, overambitious story, King Kong Escapes manages to still feel like a King Kong movie. I mean, yes, it's goofier than the other ones, but that's also what makes it unique and stand out. It's memorable for the same reason that the Showa series of Godzilla is. It's goofy, it's stupid, and it knows it. And you can call this movie a lot of things, believe me.
A lot of things.
But one thing you can't call this film is forgettable. It at least left a bigger impression on me than the more forgettable 80s Kong. And you know what? While King Kong Escapes doesn't quite hit the mark, its impact on kaiju cinema is undeniable, specifically with Mecha-Kong. But as I mentioned before, this film bombed when it first came out. Well, let me rephrase that. It didn't quite bomb, but it wasn't nowhere near the massive success that was King Kong vs. Godzilla, so Toho kind of viewed it as a failure. This led Toho to focus on Godzilla for the next 50 years, which honestly was probably for the better. I don't know if we ever would have gotten -1 if it wasn't for King Kong Escapes, which is a really weird thought. Eventually, it did find some success internationally in the US, being marketed as a fun and campy monster movie, but unfortunately, that wasn't enough to save it from the obscurity that it's found itself in today. And the King Kong Japanese interpretation was never seen again. Maybe we'll live to see another one day, who knows, but for now, King Kong Escapes lives on as the only one. But with all that being said, that does wrap up this video, so let me know down in the comments below if you've heard of King Kong Escapes, and also what's your favorite King Kong movie? I'm kind of curious after discovering some of these weirder ones I forgot about. If you're wondering, my favorite one is the Peter Jackson 2005. Masterpiece, but you know what? If you got a different one, prove me wrong. 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2024, and I'm gonna eat a ghost pepper for y'all. Oh, you think I'm playing?
Nah.
And if you feel so inclined, drop a like on the video. I literally got in a gorilla suit for y'all, so if that doesn't make you drop a like,
What more do you want from me?
Marzella out.